Me for this short recording of the Smart Carbon Light tool. So my name's Jack Spence and I'm one of the carbon consultants at Smart Carbon, and I'm here to discuss with you how we're supporting organisations to monitor and report their carbon emissions using our software service, the Smart Carbon Calculator and Light tool. So here's a quick overview of what I'm going to cover today. So starting with what we do and the motives behind our work, as well as our experience working with a range of clients. I'll then discuss our three areas of support, so focusing particularly on the platform side of things and the options for supply chain reporting available in here. And I'll then go into more depth and provide an overview of our Smart Carbon Light tool and a webinar which we've got coming up for more information. So just briefly who we are, we're a carbon reporting consultancy based in Newcastle and have been around since 2016. Help organisations on their journey to reducing carbon emissions by providing the knowledge, tools and support to allow them to report in adherence with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol corporate standard and with increasing levels and ambition. So through this support, this allows our clients to get valuable insights, allowing them to set realistic targets for decarbonisation and eventually reduce those carbon emissions. And we look to make that process as easy as possible. Typically do that in three ways. So the first way is providing a 2-day carbon accounting course in partnership with Northumbria University, and that's IEMA accredited. The second way, which is the main service I'm focusing on today, is through our SaaS platform, the Smart Carbon Calculator, which gives you a platform to comprehensively report your emissions through a single online system. And the third method is through our client-focused support for guiding net zero measurement and strategies. So all in all, we want to bring organisations on track for net zero by 2050, in line with the UK government target. And it's not a typo, but it is an acronym for the key principles towards net zero, which are transparency, relevance, accuracy, consistency, and completeness. Sorry, I'll share there the 5 principles for net zero reporting. So we work with a wide range of organisations of different sizes and sectors. So this includes 17 different NHS trusts and lots of public and private sector organisations. Got a strong track record of working with Newcastle hospitals, and this includes completing a recalculation of their baseline using supplier data, and the result was a 43% uplift in emissions. And that's entirely a consequence of improved methodology in line with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol corporate standard. We also work with a number of other public sector bodies, including local authorities, for example, Sunderland City Council, which is actually where I worked prior to Smart Carbon. And at Sunderland, we worked together to use the Smart Carbon Calculator to report our Scope 3 inventory for the first time, which we discovered made up over 80% of our own emissions, and the supply chain being a significant part of that. But as you can see on this slide here, there's a wide range of other organisations in different sectors as well. So onto the reporting options, and we currently offer 3 of those. The first one is a very simple option, the free reporting template for multinationals. Large organisations have already calculated their emissions and simply want to report them through to their supply chain customer. And this is a free template for organisations who've already got that data ready to simply submit. An example of this used in practice is Johnson & Johnson, and they were one of the first suppliers for Newcastle hospitals to have used this feature. They've completed 3 years worth of data reporting using this format, and they just had to copy their data that they've already reported publicly available. And it took them roughly 10 minutes to do this. And following this, they actually emailed to ask Smart Carbon for a further conversation about future carbon accounting and reporting as well. The second one's our full platform, and this is available for enterprise level organisations who have not yet calculated their emissions but have lots of data available and would like to access the full functionality of the Smart Carbon Calculator and reporting tool. This will include all kinds of variables in terms of the emissions options. It's fully configurable to suit people, companies with multiple subsidiaries. It's relatively complex and is aimed at organisations with probably between 10 and £100 million in turnover, and multiple locations and a large employee base between perhaps 100 and 1,000 employees. And it's worth noting as well that Newcastle Hospital suppliers are eligible for a 10% discount on this tool. An example of this is NHSBT, who've completed 7 years of reporting on the platform. So in year one, we gave them some consultancy support, and they also put two of their staff members on the team through our course run by Northumbria University. And they've now reached a point where they're looking at their own Scope 3 supply chain and how they engage with their suppliers in the near future. The third one is the Smart Carbon Light tool, and this is the one I'm mainly going to focus on for the rest of the presentation. This is a basic carbon calculator for those organisations that have core data available, for example, gas and electricity consumption, but have not yet calculated their carbon impact. It allows organisations to increase their reporting ambition without having to become greenhouse gas account experts or implement complex Excel-based solutions that need to be maintained. And it provides more of a prescriptive means to calculate and report emissions, as I'll show you. Another thing worth noting is that we're increasingly seeing PPN 0621 requirements in carbon reporting in the public sector, and the Smart Carbon Light tool is designed to include those 5 areas of Scope 3 included within that. And in this case, the results are automatically fed back to the supplier dashboard, which will be the Newcastle Hospitals dashboard, and it's also free for all Newcastle Hospitals suppliers. We'll just go into a bit more depth about Smart Carbon Light. There's 10 data sources and supporting records that you'll need. So just to run through those quickly, the first one is the reporting period. So that is the month and year that you'll start your carbon reporting aligning with your financial accounts. Secondly, we need building energy data, which could be through invoices or energy bills or meter reads, and that's reported in kilowatt hours. We've also got service records for any refrigeration and aircon equipment, which tells us the top-up levels or leakage of any fugitive refrigerant emissions. Then got company vehicles, so preferably in terms of fuel consumption, or if not, mileage is also good. Then got business travel, so this includes mileage claim for people travelling for business purposes in their own vehicles or through rail, flights or taxis. And then finally on this page, we've got employee numbers, and that includes how many days you've got working on average per employee on site or at home, which will help to give us employee commuting estimations as well. So the rest of the data sources that we'd require would be records on the waste disposal, and this includes a percentage of your waste that goes to recycling, general waste or landfill. Then got courier and transport services. So if it's available, a record of how much was spent on, for example, courier services for delivery. Then got financial records. So that includes details of purchased goods and services reported in the company accounts. And finally, some normalization indicators such as company turnover, so that the platform can proportion your emissions to the supply chain impact. So I'm now going to show you more in depth about what reporting via the Smart Carbon Light tool would look like. And firstly, you receive an email, such as the mock-up one here, which will look like this, and you'll get your details, which you would then simply enter on the Smart Carbon website as shown here. You'll then be invited to start your carbon reporting journey, as you can see circled in red just there. And the first thing you'll have to do is go and select when your reporting year starts. So that's going back to those 10 points. And as mentioned, we generally advise that is the same as the financial year. Platform will assume an operational control approach to reporting and pre-selects the most relevant emission factors for that year that reloaded into the platform. You then get onto the first of the data entry pages, which you can see listed along the top, and you're guided in the information box, as you can see in red. So for the first one, which is buildings, input in the annual total of kilowatt hours that you have used over the reporting year. And it's useful also to put a reference in, such as, for example, a gas invoice. If you don't have gas for any buildings, you just go over to the right and select non-applicable. For electricity consumption, you then do the same thing. So typing in again the kilowatt hours, And that would be it for building scope 1 and 2, other than if you have any air conditioning or refrigeration, in which case you'd select yes and type in the top up levels for the relevant gases during that reporting period. If no, and we've selected no on the example here, then you'd move on to the next page. The next data to enter is for company vehicles. And you simply select no if you don't have any company vehicles, but if yes, as we do in this case, we've selected yes. And the choice that you have to make is whether you've got information on fuel. So, for example, if we're using fuel cards, or if it's easier to report miles travelled. And we can report this by fuel. So, for example, diesel or petrol, or if not, you can simply record all miles together. Now we'll move on to the scope 3 categories. And the first one, which we've got listed on the Smart Carbon Light tool, is the business travel. Again, we've kept this relatively simple, so we can provide information on mileage or paid mileage via mileage claimback forms, and that's calculated using the standard rate in the UK. Then for us, other business travel expenses, we're recording this on expenditure. So all you'd need for this is how much you've spent on rail, air travel, or taxis. Again, if not utilised, you'd click non-applicable. For employee commuting, this is probably an area for a lot of businesses using this tool that's not really been tracked before. So we're using national commuting emission factors using the National Transport Survey in this instance. And through simply providing the number of employees, we can give a rough estimation of the employee commuting emissions, and that allows companies to step into this area or category of reporting for the first time without having to kind of introduce the burden of, for example, employee travel surveys. If you've got employees working from home, you check we have employees working from home and specify the average number of days that they're doing so as well. So the calculations are basically made on the UK government factors based on the National Transport Survey and additional energy use from desk-based home working. The next category is waste, and all we'd need for this is an estimate of weight of waste produced. So if you have an outsourced waste provider who provides you with the waste record, this should be available. Splitting this by how much goes into recycling and how much goes into general waste, or any waste going into landfill, be recorded separately as well. And if this is not the case, just again, not applicable. The next one is transportation and distribution, and again, making this relatively simple. We can record the expenditure on, for example, freight or courier services, outsourced and delivering goods and services to your business. Or again, the other option for this is downstream transportation and distribution, and this affects where transportation and distribution is arranged by your end client. In this instance, the data will probably be a little bit more tricky to get because the data will sit with the end client and would require some estimations on your part. So if it doesn't apply, click no, but if it does apply, you'd need the total weight in tons of goods collected by customers, and we'd take into account the national average guidance on what national and local delivery mileage looks like. The final one is goods and services. So this is information from your accounts based on total expenditure on purchased goods and services. And one important thing to note here is not to include any transportation and distribution, energy or business travel, as this will be double counting. If you don't want to report this, that's fine. You can again select not applicable. However, in most instances, we do recommend that this is included because we do see regularly this is the highest emitting category within the overall footprint. Once this is complete, we come on to the final reporting page, which is the company performance. And firstly, we'll need to note what sector the organisation is in from a list of predefined categories in the drop-down menu. And that's published by Companies House in line with the standard industrial classification codes. So, for example, Smart Carbon is a professional service. The other thing you'll need in here is the turnover of the organisation in the reporting period, and that will be it. But because we're reporting to Newcastle hospitals, this tool would be linked with their dashboard, and a few more simple questions would be asked, such as, for example, what sector the good or service you've provided them is in, as well as the value of those sales in the reporting year, in addition to a couple of quick questions about decarbonisation, such as if you have a net zero plan or target, and if you can link us to those in addition to any offsetting which is being done. Once the report is marked complete, you'll be brought to this results page, which shows you a breakdown of your reported Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions by emission source, as well as your reported intensity metric. There's also the option, as you can see in the bottom right there, to download results via Excel for further analysis, as well as generate an SECR compliant report, which is also in line with EPN 0621, which you mentioned earlier, through the other link you can see there in the bottom right. This isn't part of the Smart Carbon Light pool, but it is worth a mention. As part of the full service, we do also have the Net Zero Planning tool, and this essentially allows you, once you've reported your baseline emissions, to track how you're doing and essentially map the reductions you need to make to get to a decarbonisation net zero scenario. And as you report year after year, we'll then be able to track progress of how we're doing against those targets. So if you'd like any further information about Smart Carbon Light, will be available at the end of the day on the event at 4 p.m. to chat. And just for more information as well, we're hosting a webinar on the 30th of July at 11 a.m. via Teams, and details of that can be shared following the event. Just to also briefly mention the Going Green Together programme, and that invites voluntary community and social enterprises in the northeastern Cumbria to be part of a training cohort, and it takes you through a step-by-step process of creating a sustainability strategy, and our platform is built into that process. You can find out more on the Going Green Together or the Smart Carbon website. And for any contact details or to reach out for further information, you can see our emails are listed there.